welcome in. We are the Fantasy Effect. We're on episode 124.
Woo.
We just passed the deadline for the 53-man roster. I'm excited to say that Holler and I both made the 53. We are still a member of the team, ready to carry on into the season. We got a full weekend of college football ahead of us this weekend, and then next week, the big show, week 1 of the NFL kicks off. So we are basically there. We pretty much made it all the way to the season now. I know I'm looking forward to some college football games this weekend, but how's it going, Holler?
It is going. I shaved the other day, and every time I look at myself now, I'm like, why did I do that? It's been a while. It was bothering me. It's like, a little hotter. So, I can't complain about the weather here in California though, because when it's hot, it's not really hot compared to other areas. So
that's fair.
I try not to complain about it, but things are good. I'm stoked. We had a little bit of an intro into some real football last weekend.
Yeah.
The
Armageddon over in Ireland.
Yeah, it was quite an interesting game. I knew exactly when I started watching that it was week 0. A lot of
sloppy football.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Yeah, I know why the NFL does preseason. Like, I know most of the majority of the veterans don't play, but a lot of them play at least a couple snaps, and I think that gets out some of the jitters. But even in the beginning of the season with the NFL, you see I know it's week 1.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think with college football too, they don't have the opportunity to do a preseason game. It's just all like practice scrimmages, and I feel like that kind of showed at least in some of the week 0 games. But man, we got some big games this weekend. I know this is the fantasy football show, but Ohio State and Texas play on Saturday. I think that's probably the big one. LSU and Clemson play. I think that's a neutral site game. And then Notre Dame, Miami play Sunday down in Miami, which should be a good game too. So I think those are all top 10 matchups, 3 top 10 matchups, which should be awesome. Plenty of superstars, potential NFL rookies next year to watch. But I'm good to see Arch.
We're back.
We're so back.
We are back. I know it's been a long time, I feel like, but yeah, there's plenty of good college games this weekend. They're going to be scattered throughout. Like Thursday, I think there's probably a game on Friday. I don't think there's anything good on Friday. But the main one obviously is Texas, Ohio State. That should be good. But like I just said, week 1 of college football is usually pretty rough.
It's funny because more and more these teams schedule these big games week 1, and it's like there's no warm up. It's just all of a sudden they're playing in some of these teams, the biggest game they're going to play all year and it's week 1, and you're just like, well, and a lot of the big teams too, it's crazy, are breaking in new quarterbacks. I know Texas, Ohio State, they're all breaking in new quarterbacks. Penn State's really the top team that has a returning quarterback with Drew Aller, but we'll see.
Wait, say that one more time. The top returning what?
Okay.
Finally,
one of the top 10 teams that's not breaking in a new quarterback is Drew Aller. That's probably the nicest thing I'll ever say about the kid. We'll see
just wait. He's going to be a good NFL
I'm gonna watch, dude. We'll see.
Quarterback. Maybe not the greatest fantasy quarterback, but he will be a good NFL quarterback.
Not if he goes to the Browns. I can tell you
that's true.
It's over before it starts.
That's true.
All right, we can watch. Hop into the news here. Let me pull my screen over.
Quite a bit of news, right? I mean, mainly just because we had the cuts and everything, so that's kind of what our whole show is about today. But tons of even though there wasn't too many noteworthy players that got cut, there were still quite a bit of reactions or that we could things from the cuts, and we also heard a lot of things about suspensions and things like that. So
the suspensions is a big one, and we can start there. So Rashee Rice, initially, there was a lot of talk about will he get suspended this year or not, and then his hearing got moved to the end of September, and then it was he's going to play the first 4 games. Now he's got a 6-game suspension, right? So he's going to miss the first 6 games of the season. I was pulling up their schedule, so that means he's not making the trip to Brazil to play the Chargers. He's going to miss the Super Bowl rematch week 2 against the Eagles. Giants, Ravens, Jaguars, and then the Lions week 6. He is eligible to come back, of course, against my Las Vegas Raiders week 7, which I'm sure he'll come back and just go off for about 150 and that'll be fun. But before then, that sucks. I don't know about you, but I got quite a few low ball offers on Rashee Rice today. I have not moved him down in my rankings at all. It's a 6-game suspension. It does suck, especially if you have him on a contending team. But like, man, I don't see how you can move him for, especially right now. His value's like perceived value is lower than his probable actual value, and like you're just gonna sell at a loss, like probably like cents on the dollar. So I'm holding on to him everywhere. I don't know about you, but
yeah, no, I mean, I already made the mistake of moving him last year when he got injured, and I know a lot of it, like I did multiple trades of these, basically pick-ins for Rashee Rice, and you know, the jury's still out a little bit to see if like, you know, that's probably a solid trade, but still, like if you're moving him now, you're going to lose value 100%, right? We already kind of knew he was going to miss games, just didn't really know when. I do think it's better that we know he's getting these 6 games. We know he's going to miss the first 6 games versus like, okay, he plays the first 4 games. Is he going to play more? Is he going to have a lengthier suspension? Whatever, right? So I do kind of have like a little sad because I did take him a bit in some of my redraft just because of where he was like falling to. So that kind of sucks, especially if you have like, you know, there was a time that we weren't all as savvy. So the IR spot, you could put suspended players in the IR spot back in the day. Now you can't do that. So yeah, if you took him, that's going to suck, especially if you have like short benches on redrafts. You know, I don't know for sure if you're going to be able to hold him, right? I would, but I'm not sure if you can.
Most of the leagues that I commission on Sleeper, I have suspended players eligible for IR.
Yeah.
That's not common. I'll just say that it's more often than not. No, you're gonna have to hold them. I do think though it's nice. Like I think bye weeks start week 5, right? So like, you're not dealing with like in the middle. I think this could have been worse if he got suspended week 5 through like week 11, right? Because then it's like, okay, now you're in the middle of bye weeks. You need that depth. You need those bench spots, and you're just having to burn one on them. Now it's like, okay, earlier in the season, the better, right? Like you really only going to have a couple weeks where you're going to have to deal with. Hopefully you don't have a bunch of players on your team that have an early bye week that you don't have to deal with it. And hopefully you kind of avoid some injuries there. And then all of a sudden, if you get them on a discount, like let's say you have a redraft draft this weekend. If you take him in like, I don't know, where do you think he's going to go? I was looking at Fantasy Pros earlier. Seems like he's still kind of in like that 6th round, which I think is a little rich. I'm curious if someone would actually take him there. I feel like round 8, 9 is where I'm like, you know what, I'll take the gamble there on Rashee Rice. What do you think of that?
So that's funny you say round 8 because I just pulled up one of my Yahoo that I drafted on Sunday night and I got him in the 8th round. Right. There were some keepers and stuff. So like some guys got shifted up a little bit, but whatever. I still would feel good about drafting him in the 8th round. Right. I still think you have a pretty, say you start like a typical 1 QB in a redraft. You start 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, tight end, and 2 flex. Right. So that's 9 starting 9 or 8. Right. So in round 8 or 9, you may or may not already have your starting roster there. So I think round 8, 9, you know, if you want to gamble and you feel really confident with the first 6 and you go round 7, I think that's okay as well. But I'll be the most comfortable in round 8 and beyond. And at that point, I think it is a discount or a value, right? Because when he comes back, he's the top dog. I don't care. You know, I did like Xavier Worthy coming out. But to me, he just fits kind of like a certain mold, right? He's either gonna be, you know, handed the ball off on an end around and run, or he's gonna be, you know, kind of he's more of like a boomer bust guy, in my opinion. So I think Rashee Rice is the guy there, right? They're not gonna run the ball much. You know,
not a big Pacheco fan.
No, like we know who he is, and after that is Kareem Hunt, you know, Elijah Mitchell, and then Brashad Smith. I think all 4 of those guys will be sprinkled in. But to me, I just think we've talked about it before. The Chiefs offense is not really like fantasy friendly, right? They're just there to win the game, and they do that great.
They do that same thing that Belichick used to do in New England, where it's like they do enough to win the game. They'll take advantage of matchups week to week, but you just never know where the fantasy targets are going to go, or the carries. And I can't believe you forgot CEH re-signed with the Chiefs today too, and I think he's on the 53. So they're carrying 5 running backs, and they're something. They're a handful. That's about as nice of a thing as I can say about the 5 of them. It is a collection of NFL running backs.
Yep.
I will say Xavier Worthy, like, I am excited if I have him for the first few weeks before Rashee Rice gets back. I think he should be kind of pick up where he left off to start the season. I think he's a great play. It gets a great start. I am very interested to see what happens when they get back. So like week 7 against the Raiders, what does that look like? What does the target share look like? I'm with you. I think Rashee Rice is going to go back to being kind of the main target hog, and Worthy's going to serve as kind of the number 2. And then Travis Kelce will, I think he's going to be primarily like a red zone, third down, kind of move to 6 kind of a guy, kind of in the late stages of his career. But that's just something to kind of keep an eye on. But Xavier Worthy, like, I think he's a great play to start the season. Super stoked if I have him, but a little nervous for, the end of the season, how that goes. And I think Rashee Rice too, like if your team has him and you can get like 3-3 through those first 6 weeks, and he comes back, like, you're golden, dude. Like, I think you'll be able to make the playoffs. He'll help you. Like, he's an instant wide receiver 1 added. Like, it wasn't that long ago he was going at the 2-3 turn. And I know that because in Underdog best ball drafts to start the year, I took him kind of at like the 24-25, that back end turn. And now it's a little, now it seems a little messed up. But it is what it is.
No, I mean, I think at the end of the day, like, it's kind of what we've talked about before with the Chiefs, is they're not really, that's not really a fantasy friendly team, right? The top thing they have in mind is winning, and their defense is really good, so they don't have to put up a ton of points. So I just think even when Rashee Rice comes back, it will probably be week depending on the week, who is the top dog. I just feel more that Rice is kind of that alpha versus Worthy, but we'll see. Maybe Worthy the first 6 games is really, really good, and then Mahomes is like that's my top dog. So
my dog.
something to look out for.
Definitely. In other teams news, down in New Orleans, Spencer Rattler won the starting QB job out in New Orleans. I don't know how long. I'm curious how long of a leash he's going to get. Right. I know they drafted Tyler Shuck in the 2nd round. Honestly, I think they're kind of just like punting this year and waiting to see which one of the top quarterbacks they get to start the year next year. That said, I did a little bit of research on Spencer Rattler and some of the top options in the offense when he started 6 games for them last year. Chris Olave was the one I was most curious about. So Olave played in 2 games with Rattler. One of those games, he only played like 2 snaps before he got knocked out of the game. So I threw that one
way.
out. So basically,
it's never happened.
I know. But the one game he did play, he was awesome. He had 13 targets, 8 receptions, 107 yards. Now, that is a 1-game sample size. Not ideal. But if that is what is like capable, then I feel a lot better with Chris Olave, with Spencer Rattler, especially if it's a better offensive scheme, with Kellen Moore coming over as a new head coach, offensive play caller. Alvin Kamara, he played 3 games with Rattler as a starter. He was running back 17, 33, and 13 during those 3 games. So not like awesome, but a high-end RB2. Not quite as maybe some of us who were putting him up in a high-end RB1 conversation. The one that surprised me, Juwan Johnson had 2 really nice games. To end the season, he had 6 catches in both of those games, week 17 and 18, for 66 yards and 80 yards. So, like, it's not Spencer Rattler was not good, but like it wasn't like everything was dead on the offense. Like, there was still some people that did okay.
Yep.
So I guess I came out of that thinking maybe this isn't so bad for New Orleans, and that there might be some values to be had there because people don't want anything to do with them right now, and I think they might perform better than like everyone just assumes. Oh, they suck and they're going to suck, but
I think in terms of NFL football, I still think they're going to suck.
yeah.
But I do think in terms of, I think Rattler does give us a little bit of a better, like for the playmakers, it's a little bit better, I think. Right. So kind of exactly what you said. I remember end of last season when Rattler was playing, like, Juwan Johnson, Kamara's always, playable, but like Juwan Johnson was a good play. Right. And so, I even think Rashid Shaheed is still a good, still a good play. Right. So I think overall, like it doesn't feel good with any of the two quarterbacks, whoever they were going to, name the starter. But I still think those top, playmakers in New Orleans are still playable and, could have some really good games. And, I still think I don't love Olave, but I got him in both of my redrafts because his value was just so good. I think I got him in one of them in the 9th round and then the other one in like the 7th or 8th round. Right. And so I think at that rate, it's solid, right? That's like probably wide receiver 30, like in the 30 range. So I think as long as he can stay healthy, he should be a good play there. And then I know those numbers of RB 17, 33, and 13 don't look good with Rattler, but I think that's just more of like where the Saints were last season, right? So I think in the beginning of the season and hopefully throughout the whole season, like Kamara will be a target hog and should be a very, very good play.
Fun fact, do you know Spencer Rattler was one of probably the bottom, I'm just eyeballing here, bottom 5 pass attempts and pass attempts 20 plus yards downfield last year, which does not give me a lot of confidence.
I was just going to say,
yeah.
But I was going to say, let me pull back my Rashid then, because that is not good, right? But
Shaheed might suck. Until Shough comes in, and then I don't know. Well, he's a rookie. We'll see what happens. But I was going to say, think both of them play, right? Like,
totally.
Is that okay?
Yeah, no, totally. I think they just feel Rattlers had some season game. He's played season games before, so I think they're like, okay, let's start with this guy. But I like kind of just like Indianapolis. I don't think either of those guys are going to have a long leash. No. We could see, a couple games of Rattler, then a couple games of Shough, and then maybe they go back to Rattler. But yeah, I do think it's kind of like a punt this year, and especially because none of the guys on their team are franchise quarterbacks.
No, I agree. I think they're trying to piecemeal 17 games to get to next season and hopefully get their quarterback of the future. I think my biggest takeaway there is I think Camaro's going to be fine still. Yep. And I think Chris Olave, if he stays on the field, I think he'll be good.
Yep.
And especially where you get him. Where did you say you got him? Wide receiver 30? Is that what
around there? I'm just guessing, but I got him in round 8.
That's totally fine,
right? And so down there, I agree, right? You're at that point. It's like let me just put him in my maybe my flex spot or wide receiver 3. So I think he's been a good value. I know some people are still really high on him, but for me, I'm more worried about his health than whatever quarterback's playing with him. If he can stay healthy for a season, then I'll turn that around and be like, okay, he's good to go. Now he needs a quarterback. But I still worry about him. Obviously, I know Derek Carr was not giving him any favors at all, but also the same thing's going to happen with Rattler or Shough. They're not going to place the ball in a good spot for him to. So I think there's a little bit of him learning how to overcome that as well.
No, I agree. I think as long as he's healthy, I think the offense is going to get funneled to him. He's going to have a ton of as many targets as he can handle. The concern is just he's been banged up a ton. The concussions is the biggest concern, but where he's going right now in redraft leagues, he's going right around Rome Odunze, Tyrone Tracy, Jerry Jeudy, Ricky Parasol, Caleb Johnson. The upside out of Olave compared to those other guys is so much higher, in my opinion. He's worth a shot there.
Yeah, especially I know you said redraft, but especially redraft, right? Outside of those guys, I know Rome could have a good season, but for me,
Rome definitely
the biggest difference is Olave isn't really competing with too many other people at all,
Dude,
right? There's just a lot of good players on Chicago, and how that all pieces out.
yeah.
My guess is as good as the next person.
Not to mention the vibes aren't great out of Chicago.
Oh yeah,
Caleb Williams didn't. Well, we'll see. Well, I think I've crapped on the Bears enough, but we'll see how they look. Joe Mixon is starting the season on the inactive list out in Houston. Speaking of not good vibes, dude, the Joe Mixon thing's strange. Like, I think it was right before camp started. They're like, oh, he's still kind of nursing a foot injury. And they're like, oh, like they were kind of weird about it. They wouldn't field any questions. I think someone asked their GM, Nick Caserio, like, is he going to play this year? And he's like, I don't know. Not an ideal response. And I know he's not going to be like, oh yeah, he'll be good to go, but he's missing at least 4 games. Dude, a couple things. If the foot injury is this serious where he hasn't been able to practice in training camp, he's missing the first 4 games of the season. Even if he comes back week 5, like I don't feel good playing him. Like a running back with a foot injury makes me really just uneasy. I don't want any part of it. They have a terrible offensive line. And now they have Nick Chubb, Dameon Pierce, and Woody Marks to hold down the fort like in Houston. Like this offense just looks just grosser and grosser the closer we get to the season. Am I alone in thinking that like I just don't want anything to do with Houston other than maybe Nico Collins?
Yeah, so I was going to say that same thing, right? I was going to say this, Texans offense is going to look rough. I know Nico Collins is very, very good, but I do have a little bit of a worry there, just because how bad that whole offense is going to be. So we'll see. Maybe Nick Chubb is still like, a lot better than we think. I need to see it before I can say anything else, right? And then Woody Marks is fine. Dameon Pierce is fine, right? But they're going to struggle running the ball unless Nick Chubb is somebody else that we all saw last year, right? And then on top of that, their offensive line sucks. And, so obviously their wide receivers are very, very good. So I think, most of those guys are going to be fine. But if they can't really move the ball very well, I just think overall that offense is going to struggle. So I do worry a little bit, and it's just hard because, Nico Collins is, we love Nico Collins and he's very, very good. But I think Joe Mixon was a very, very big part of that team last year. And so to not have him is going to be a big, big hurt.
Yeah. I think not having even like a threat or like a semblance of a rushing game is going to impact the passing game, right? Yep. Like I think ideally, like, Nico's going to get a ton of targets, but are they going to be good targets? And is the opposing defense is just going to be able to pin their ears back and just go get the quarterback, right? And just knowing that like, oh, they're not going to run, we don't have to respect it. We can just, max pass rush and drop back in zone. I don't know, man. The vibes aren't good. I'm kind of fading all of them. I think I have like no Nico Collins in best ball. I haven't taken him in a single one of my redrafts so far. I don't intend to.
Yep. Yeah, he was a guy
might be fine, but he's an injury too. Like he's a thing. Like he hasn't played a full season in God knows how long. And I just don't trust any of it. CJ Stroud is I have none of him. I don't want him. I don't think he's good. He still has a good dynasty value, and I don't get it. Like
don't buy it, right? No. So I know it's probably not a good time to sell, but if he has any good games the first couple of seasons, I would move him if you can. Obviously, sure. Off the top of my head, I don't know good pivots, right? But I just think obviously right now there's not good vibes, so you're not going to get anything good for him right now. And obviously they could come out and be great, right? And through the summer, I was super stoked for Christian Kirk, right? Opposite of Nico Collins, should be really good. But if you don't have a running game, that pass offense is going to struggle a bit.
All right, I just pulled up Fantasy Calc's Dynasty rankings. CJ Stroud is at QB 11. You let me know let me read the names and tell me if you'd rather have that person or CJ Stroud. Jordan
Love.
Baker Mayfield. Kyler.
Oh, I'll jump off a cliff instead. No, I'll take Kyler.
Cam Ward.
I'll go with CJ Stroud.
Okay, and then 2 more, Brock Purdy and JJ McCarthy.
Oh, Purdy and McCarthy, JJ McCarthy, easy.
See, I'm the same way, and honestly, I'd even go down another one to Trevor Lawrence and Dak Prescott.
Yeah, I think you
And
could get
hell,
a
even Bryce Young, I think I would take too.
yeah.
So
Wes, I wanted to say Ward, but I got to keep with my, since the like the whole offseason, I was like, I'm out on these quarterbacks, but I am turning around a little bit on Cam Ward. He's looked pretty good in the preseason, so I'll be the first one to say I was probably wrong. But I just worry about the whole, Titans offense in general.
Here's the thing with Cam Ward. We know CJ Stroud isn't like great, and his ceiling is probably like a back end QB1. Cam Ward, we don't entirely know what he's going to be yet. He could be awesome. I don't think he is, but he still could be.
Yeah.
And because he's a rookie, like his value will hold up better. If CJ Stroud has another bad year, that's 2 years in a row where he's kind of disappointed. His values could really plummet. And that's the only reason why I would probably take Ward there. But I get what you're saying. Like,
I'm at a point where if I have Ward, I'm not going to CJ Stroud, and if I have Stroud, I'm not going to Cam Ward, right? So that's where like I'm kind of like right in the middle there. But I'll miss out on the boat probably because I don't think I got really any of Cam Ward just because I was like kind of out. And then but yeah, most of the other ones, like I'll take all the other quarterbacks over CJ Stroud, right? I think we know who he is. He's a fine quarterback, but not a good fantasy quarterback.
He's not, at least not now. He's going to be one of those guys where he's going to need a better situation around him rather than him kind of lifting up the talent around him, in my opinion. We'll see if that plays out. We might have to play that back in my face here in 6 weeks when CJ Stroud's like QB1, inevitably, right? But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
In my opinion, he has Nico Collins, but to me, and exactly what we talked about is like that offensive line's bad, and there's not going to be much of a run game. So I think they're going to struggle.
Speaking of bad offensive lines, the Falcons lost their right tackle, and I forgot to put his name down because I'm a true professional. But their starting right tackle is now out for the season. I did see a stat that like the Falcons last year, they rushed to that side of the field more often than the left side, and they averaged almost like 2 yards more per carry when they rushed to the right. Are you concerned at all for Bijan? Less so in Dynasty, but more just like this season in particular with a potentially worse offensive line.
Yeah. Greg beat me to it. I was going to say Caleb McGarry because I looked it up. But yeah, no, it's
Thank you.
I think also like I'm a little bit worried, but not really because Bijan is Bijan, right? I don't like obviously I know the offensive line makes it better, but to me, I think Bijan's good enough to overcome that, right? I think it's actually more going to hurt on passing because he was on the blind side of Michael Penix, right? So I think
he's a lefty.
So I think that's going to hurt. But overall, like I still think there's going to be plenty of passing work for Bijan. There's going to be plenty of like, I just think overall Bijan is who he is, and I think it hurts it a little bit. Maybe you now think of like, okay, should I take, if you're just doing a straight up redraft and should I not take him as the second running back and maybe he'll goes to like running back 4. Okay. I'm not going to fault anybody for that. Right. But I don't really have any, caution with Bijan because at the end of the day, he's an amazing running back.
And I think too, like, I think I trust the Falcons offensive staff enough to scheme around stuff like that. Like, I think that's the difference I have with Atlanta compared to like Houston is like, I don't really trust Houston's offensive play callers in their scheme to kind of like maximize the talent they have. Whereas I think in Atlanta, they can kind of scheme around some tackle play. They can use Kyle Pitts probably to stay in and kind of chip block to give him some help, or maybe not leave him out on an island. I think they can do things right to kind of help him. But and then Bijan too, he's a good pass catcher. Like if they use him more as like quick kind of out routes where they can just kind of give him the ball to kind of serve as like an outside run and not put as much pressure on the tackle. Like I think there's ways around it, right? And so I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not like overly concerned about the situation, but
No.
it is something just in the back of your mind.
I thought I saw. I don't know if it was on Twitter or what, but the funniest thing about the Bijan thing is like, oh, sweet, he's going to drop to me in the redraft to 102 now. It's like,
yes,
that's
exactly.
like that's the worry people have, right? It's like, for me, the only difference is now it like firmly puts Gibbs as 101, and then Bijan as that running back 2. So like for me though, like I put the weight more on the player than anything, right? If it was a mediocre player that was being elevated by the offensive line, then I would be more worried. But with Bijan being as good as he is, I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah, I think it'll be okay. And I think he's so good. Like, I just don't think it matters.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
yep.
I don't know. I will say that I just pulled up his replacement, Elijah Wilkinson.
Yeah, I saw that they traded. Well, I also saw they made a trade too. So I don't know if.
Okay.
I just can't figure out if it's good. I should have done a little more research. But yeah. So, but yeah, I don't think they're going to drop. Yeah, they're going to drop down quite a bit with his replacement. And then I know they also might have a rookie there. So yeah, it's gonna be a big hurt. But in my opinion, I think it's gonna hurt the passing offense more.
That's totally fair. And we'll see what Michael Penix does. Good thing he doesn't have a long injury history in college. Oh, wait, he does. Anyways, moving on to the Lions. They traded away Tim Patrick. Now, this is less of like a Tim Patrick news clip and more of so he went to Jacksonville just to complete the news there. But I think the biggest takeaway I have from this is this, like, Isaac TeSlaa, the drumbeat just gets louder and louder. This reminds me a lot of like when Sam Laporta came in that his rookie year. Everyone just kept talking about how good Laporta was going to be, and the beat was just constant. They're doing this again with TeSlaa. He balled out in all of his preseason games, and now they get rid of Tim Patrick, which basically just says like, hey, TeSlaa's ready to. He's our starting X receiver. He's ready to rock and roll just already. I think they've been looking for someone to kind of fill that role for a long time. I think he's going to be more fantasy relevant than people probably realize. He's a guy, like, I'm trying to take him everywhere. I actually found him on waivers in one of my dynasty leagues earlier, and I snatched him up super, super quick. Okay. I think this might be crazy, but I feel like I would trade. Well, let me ask you first before I get too crazy. What would you trade to give up to get Isaac TeSlaa on your dynasty teams?
So before you told me you went out and got him on waivers, I was going to say a third, no problem. But for me, not like.
Oh, wait till I tell you what I was going to say.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, you're going to have to send at least a second. Or excuse me, at least a third, because they just traded away Tim Patrick. Now everyone knows, okay, he is their wide receiver 3, and their offense is very good, right? So that's a fantasy-friendly offense. So I think he's going to be relevant, right? So I think at this point now, though, you probably do need to send a second. And for me, I think it's a little too much to send for a second, especially when you can maybe find him on waivers. Which is probably an oversight on anybody in that league, which hopefully I was in that league. That means it's an oversight on me as well. But yeah, no. So like, I just don't think he's going to be, fantasy relevant enough to move a second at this time, when you can use that second down the line and probably get yourself a player that you're actually going to start and use.
Yeah, I would say. Okay, I was gonna say a second. It feels a little excessive.
Yeah, it seemed a little rich.
It was more like if I have a team that's like, it was a playoff team last year. Yeah, maybe I won, maybe I didn't. I think I'm in a good shape. Like I don't have a problem sending that. If I'm like pretty confident it's gonna be like let's say like the 208, the 212. I don't have a huge, because your second doesn't go as far as like a middling team second, right? Because teams see that, they know that your team is good. They're like, well, I'm not going to just give you, just anything. So you kind of have to pay up a little bit. If I could do it for 2/3, I would, like a 26 and 27 third. Like, I'll send that all day for TeSlaa. Like, I think he's going to be awesome. I feel like he's kind of moving into one of my like conviction players of like, I don't know how this guy was underrated as he was. Detroit moved up in the draft to take him.
Yeah.
He's been awesome in camp. He was great in the preseason. They traded away the guy that was in front of him, which all the smoke is just like they like this kid. He's gonna play. I feel like some of these times you gotta dive into just jump into the pool,
totally
just test the water.
Yeah, I mean, and if I totally get what you're saying, right? I don't think sending a second is crazy for it, right? If you feel like your team is good and you're trying to just bolster your your roster, I get it, right? But I still think hold on to those picks because you could use them later down the line. It's not a move you need to make today. Unfortunately, it's probably going to, you might not get him for a second if he is really good, which is fine, right? You lose out on it. But I just think in general, right, kind of like what Nick said in the chat, like a late second for Tesla seems like a lot, all right, for a guy that is, wide receiver 3 on the team. He had a great preseason, don't get me wrong. But I just feel like you can use that second later down in the season to get somebody that you might be able to feel confident about and start week in and week out.
Okay. What a late second seems like a lot, but here's some guys that were going in the late second of these year's rookie drafts. Like Bashal Tutin was going in that range. I think Kyle Williams is going in that range. Jadon Blue, Jack Betch, who's falling off a cliff. Like some of the tight ends, right?
I'll move Jack Beck for Tesla straight up. So yeah, I get it. I get the second.
That's all I'm saying. Like the second, I think it's one of those things where like a late second seems a lot more in your head than like when you actually get Jalen Noel. Until you actually get there and you put a name to it, and you're just like, well, maybe that's not as good as I thought it was going to be. I think late seconds get overvalued, in my opinion, just by the general fantasy community. That said, you might be able to get more for him than Tesla, but I mean, that's what it's going to take to get him, though.
Yeah,
the drumbeat's just booming.
Yep, that's what I was just going to say. Like, if you have a conviction on Tesla, I have no problem with you moving a second. But if you're iffy on it at all, hold on to those picks and use them later on in the season. Because once you start out 4-0 or whatever, right, then you feel like, okay, my team's going to be pretty good. Let me save this pick or whatever in case I get an injury. And then you can, send a player and a second, and that gets you an even better player, right? So that's just where I like to use my picks that way. I rarely like to, send picks this close to the season. But again, just talking strictly value, like I have no problem with that.
Yeah, what you're saying is probably the smart thing to do. But and like sometimes you just got to ride the lightning, and see what happens.
No, I get it.
And like Wes said in the chat, like it's not like JMO hasn't done dumb shit, right?
Yeah.
And he's gotten suspended a couple times in his career already. Like, and if that's the case, or if God forbid, Amon-Ra gets hurt, like then all of a sudden Tesla is, if you got him for a second, people are going to be like, oh damn, I should have done that. Right.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a riskier move than trading for like a established bet, but it could pay off. Sometimes those deals, an overpay today is a underpay tomorrow. Sometimes also you look back at it and you go, damn, I got absolutely fleeced and that was horrible. But it is what it is.
I mean, worst case, you do feel like you get fleeced, but you're losing out on a second. And we just talked about some of the guys that were going in the back end of the second. And there's so many question marks with all of them, right? I mean, probably out of the guys you said, the only one I would not want to switch would be Bashal Tutin, just with the possible height.
Sure.
Right. But outside of that, there's so many question marks with all those guys. And like, I know Kyle Williams could be the wide receiver 1 in New England, but there's a big could there, right? And Tesla, we know the team likes them. They traded away Tim Patrick. So, I totally get where you're coming from.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to a name that you were probably worried was going to show up in the show doc. So Adam Thielen got traded away from Carolina back to Minnesota. He actually got decent compensation, but this is less about Thielen. I think he's going to have a nice couple, like 3 games, and probably I think he's there as like a locker room guy to help JJ McCarthy break in a new quarterback. I think he'll have a nice like first month of the season until Addison gets back, but the real news here, not to bury the lead. The Cokeheads are absolutely just having the time of their lives out in Carolina, dude. It's just raining snow everywhere. Jalen Coker should now be playing in the 3 wide receiver sets. He's no longer the fourth fiddle in that offense. What's your take on Jalen Coker? I know you've been a hater, but are you coming around?
Yeah, so I have to come around, right?
Let's go.
It's kind of the same thing with Tesla. When a team moves another player, there's been a lot of talk of Thielen moving on and things like. For me, I feel like it's, I thought they got great value back, and obviously they must believe in Jalen Coker to do this, right? And so I just don't put a lot of weight in undrafted players, but I know we're in a whole year removed from the draft from when he was drafted, so like that kind of goes out the window now. So yeah, I mean, I didn't, when I was, talking down on Jalen Coker, I didn't go out and move him or drop him or whatever, right? And so I just think there was a lot of people like overhyping Jalen Coker, and I still think they might be. And I'm still waiting to see it before I can totally buy in, right? But honestly, I know you kind of oversighted on the Thielen, but I think it's really, really good for Minnesota. Super good for all the wide receivers and pass catchers there. Like, because outside of Justin Jefferson, there was nobody until Addison came back. And now, well, I don't want to miss out on Hawkinson, but I'm talking wide receivers. And so I still think it's going to be really, really good for, Justin Jefferson, Thielen himself, Hawkinson, JJ McCarthy, right? So I just think, a lot of it is on Jalen Coker, but for me, I think it's a really, really good move for Minnesota. And so obviously I'm not saying that's going to be good enough for us to put Adam Thielen in our lineups and be like, I feel good about that. But more, it's just like the fallout of now having Adam Thielen on the Minnesota Vikings is good for the other players around him.
I think it's better for Thielen. I think it's a much more like pass happy offense than Carolina was. So if I had to play Thielen before, I'm going to feel a lot better about it now.
Yep.
Especially for the first 3 weeks of the season, like knowing that Addison's not there. Thielen, the only concern I have is Thielen basically has 10 days to work with JJ McCarthy in practice to build up a rapport, and that's just not that's a hard ask for him, right?
Yeah.
Like especially like a rookie quarterback, he doesn't it's gonna. I don't know how efficient the passing game is gonna be just to begin with. I think there might be some lumps to start the season, and then just being like with a guy that you've spent known for like 2 weeks is gonna be tough to ask too much out of it. Like I think,
100%.
Even if he's in like the right spot and he's gonna run his routes because he's a professional, it's just hard. Like do quarterbacks and wide receivers see the defenses the same way? They kind of know some of that. Like I know I watched that quarterback show on Netflix, and Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase were talking about like, we played together for so long. We know I can just kind of give him a look and he knows to run a different route. They're not going to have that.
Exactly.
And it's fine. Right. But I think the temper expectations might be a little, a little lower.
I would say, just on Thielen, right? It's not like, in the beginning of the season, if he was on Carolina, I would be like, okay, if I need to, I'll start him in a flex. But, I think it's going to take some time for Thielen, and, I think he'll be fine for a bye week fill-in, injury fill-in. But yeah, I don't think anybody was really like, I'm stoked to have Adam Thielen on my team this season.
Yeah, I think those days are behind us.
Yeah.
Speaking of wide receivers, you probably aren't stoked to have in your team. The Raiders signed Amari Cooper. And my initial reaction was, oh my God, what this means Jacoby Myers is probably gone.
Yeah.
He asked for a trade request, and then the Amari Cooper news broke like 3 hours later. I'm like, oh baby. I don't know what's happening in Vegas. It's a mess. I think I will say if Jacoby Myers does leave, it opens the door a lot for Jack Betch. I think he was kind of fighting with him for the slot role. I think that would open him up a lot. I think Dante Thornton is running. He's running with the ones right now. He's like their starting outside receiver. I know I keep seeing on Twitter, maybe it's because I'm a Raiders fan, but I keep seeing that like the list of players 6'4" plus that ran a 4.3 40. It's him, like Calvin Johnson. I think Randy Moss was the other one, and I'm like,
jeez.
Oh baby.
That is quite the company.
Quite company. I think one of those things. It's like that meme of like the three dragons, where like two of them are like real and the other one's derpy, and it's like
Yep.
I'll let you figure out who that third one is. But man, I don't know. The Raiders. We don't have to spend too much time on it, but like I think Gino's gonna be fine. I
Yeah.
think Ashton Genty's gonna be good. Brock Bowers will be good. Myers, if he's there, I think will be fine. But like other than that, man, I don't expect a whole ton out of this. And Amari Cooper's like I would expect almost nothing out of him at this point.
Agreed. Yeah, I think it didn't really matter where he went. I think it was going to be the same, right? Maybe if he went with, a little better quarterback, but Geno Smith is fine. So I don't think Jakobi Meyers gets traded unless, something big happens, just because I saw the Raiders came out and said they won't be trading him, but that's just what teams do.
Wow.
So, I don't know. Right. But I think when a player like asks for a trade, in my opinion, if he doesn't get traded, it's going to be a rough season for him. Right. So I think it would be best for Jakobi Meyers to be traded, but it is what it is.
It's like when, we've all worked jobs where we reach a point where like, you know what, I'm done kind of looking around at other jobs. Like your work definitely decreases. You're not all the way in it. Right. And I think that could definitely be the case with Jakobi Meyers. I also think like they start the season at New England, Chargers at home, at Washington, Chicago at home. They could very easily be 0-4 to start the season. It wouldn't shock me if they shipped them off at that point and just kind of steered into a rebuild.
It was interesting though, like because after they signed Amari Cooper, then I don't know if this is when it came out after that, but that's when I saw like a couple hours later, like, oh, the Raiders do not want to trade him. But like I said, I think all teams are going to say that at first, and then a couple of days later they're going to trade. They do trade the player, so
they say that, and then a couple of days later they're like, maybe if someone gave us like 2 seconds for Jakobi Meyers, and then it's all of a sudden the trade comes out and they ship him away for a 5th and a 6th pick round swap, and it's like, well, all right,
yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's a bummer because I think it's a really good spot for him in Vegas, but I kind of get it, right? If the Raiders do move him, like I don't really want to pay, a bunch of money for Jakobi Meyers, but that's the market that you need to pay for a wide receiver of that caliber, right? So, somebody will pay and somebody will trade for him.
He's a really good player that's played on a lot of crappy real life NFL teams, so I feel for him. Like if I were him, I'd want to play on a contender too. It is what it is.
Yep.
All right, some practice reports. Khalil Shakir and Jordan Love both returned to practice. I think they're on track to play week 1, which is good. A couple guys who maybe are a little more questionable. Jaden Reed, they said that he is hopeful for week 1. He did return to practice, but he was basically talking about how he was playing through a lot of pain. So the vibes aren't good there. Matthew Golden might be in for a smash-opotamus start of the season. And then Tyreek Hill, he's still not practicing with that oblique injury. We talked about this last week, but I've been saying this and I'll keep saying it. Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill's ADP should be swapped. Jalen Waddle is going to be the guy in that offense this year. Tyreek Hill he's going down his Antonio Brown, checking out halftime of a game, just piecing out. So we'll see what happens. Are there any thoughts on some of the practice reports?
No, I think the big one there would be Tyreek Hill. I did see some news. Achane should be ready for week 1. It was
which is good.
It's just good to see. A little worried there with him, nursing an injury. But yeah, I think the vibes with Tyreek Hill just are bad, right? Injury, just I don't know. I think ever since speeding like right outside was that what the issue was last year or something? Like
I don't know. He almost got arrested.
I don't remember what happened, but I felt like since then there's just been bad vibes with Tyreek Hill and the Dolphins, right? And so I know Tyreek Hill has always been a head case, but now you add an injury to that. I'm out on Tyreek Hill for all intents and purposes, right? I didn't really draft him in any redraft. I stayed away in any startups this offseason. Just the age and he's just not a player you want to root for.
He's going down a path I can't follow. Like that, insert that Star Wars gif. Like he's just not. The vibes aren't right, and I don't.
And Wes, I I just use that as a reminder in my head. But yes, he's been a head case forever. But I just feel like since that instance, I remember it just all kind of going even worse from then.
There are wide receivers who are divas and they back it up with their play, and it's fine. But then when they start getting older and the play stops backing it up and they start getting a little either the same level of crazy or a little crazier, you get to a dangerous tipping point where you're just like, dude, it's not worth the risk anymore. And like, let's not forget the end of last year, he just straight up quit on his team. He walked off and Jalen Waddle was like, Cheetah, you done? And he's like, yeah. And he just pieced out and refused to go back in the game. And like they were playing for a playoff spot. Like it wasn't like there was nothing to play for. So, and it seems like every time he opens his mouth this offseason, it's like he's criticizing like coaching, he's criticizing their play calling, like what their running backs, like it's just weird stuff, dude. I don't want anything to do with it. And it's one of those guys like sometimes when you make a stance like that, you got to be okay with like, okay, if I'm wrong, can I live with this? And he's one. It's like, you know what? If it burns me, it burns me. So be it. Like I don't think the reward is worth the risk with rostering him.
And at the end of the day, this is like obviously this is for fun, right? And a lot of times, you know, I pick players that I don't like the team or whatever, but it's easy to root for that player. And with Tyreek Hill, it's like I don't want to root for this player. Like he's just all bad. Just basically almost as bad as Antonio Brown.
Yeah, Antonio Brown was fun before he got too crazy, though.
Yeah. Same with Tyreek Hill. That's it, you know?
Fair enough. The similarities are uncanny.
Well, before we move on from Miami, though, I did want to touch a little bit on Ollie Gordon. A lot of Ollie Gordon RB2 hype. I think it's mainly just because Jalen Wright is injured. But he has that too. But but Ollie Gordon has outperformed, right, from what I thought, you know, coming into it. You know, I didn't think much of him. He had a really, really rough season last year. So, you know, but you know, good for him. And I think he really is taking, you know, the opportunity, right? And he should be the RB2. And I think I've missed out on him quite a few times in some redraft and things recently. And it's like, oh, I forgot about that guy. So
I will say I also was on I don't think Ollie Gordon's very good train.
Yeah.
And they didn't get good draft capital, but everything I've heard since he's gotten there, he's been great and the team loves him. He vastly outperformed Jalen Wright, which to be fair is a fairly low bar, but still. That said, the offense, assuming Tua is healthy, should be pretty solid.
Yeah.
And Ollie Gordon, you know, he's basically one snap away from being a lead back on a pretty good offense. Like he's definitely one of my more like favored what's the word? Backup running back. What is the word?
Handcuff.
Thank you. Handcuff.
But yeah, no, I mean, I love Devon Achane, but you know, like he's a smaller back and they used him quite a bit last year and they probably will use him the same way because he's very good. But with the amount of touches he gets, he's going to get injured. And so then here comes Ollie Gordon, right? And he's, you know, taken the opportunity and done really well. So kudos to Nick.
Yep. Good call. Credit where credit is due. Some other just kind of quick news. We don't have to spend too much time, but some things that caught my eye. Beaux Collins made the Giants 53-man roster. He started his career at Clemson and then transferred. It was a grand transfer at Notre Dame. He had flashes, but he was never like a huge like star at either school. But good to see he made the 53-man roster. I don't expect a ton, but like worth keeping an eye on. I think he's worth an ad in deep dynasty leagues, right? Like just on the off chance he does. I mean, he made the roster. Like if he continues to surprise, maybe something happens. Maybe he's good.
And there's not much out of Malik Nabers, right? So I think there is an opportunity for him. So the first step is making the 53. Obviously the 53 is better than the practice squad. So he's doing something right. I remember him because I do some Debbie obviously, and he was on a couple Debbie rosters that I saw. So I think he is a solid player. Kind of fell off a little bit, but like you said, good for him.
Yeah, his thing is like it's nothing like physical. Like physically, he's been great. It's just he's had struggles with drops and just consistency. And so if he puts that together, like good for him. Hope something happens. He's got to be on waivers pretty much everywhere. I would be shocked if he. Okay, what would you pay for Ollie Gordon right now? Let me look. Where do I have?
I'm the resident Bill hater, so I'll send Bill for Ollie Gordon. But no, I don't. I mean, you probably don't need to send that much, to be honest. Which is funny because
an early
Ollie Gordon was probably going ahead of
maybe 2/3
Bill. But yeah, so that's what I was gonna say as well. A third. Nick says he offered a third and it got shut down. Let me pull up Dynasty Daddy here.
No,
oh
that's
wow,
fair,
here's
though.
a good one. Ollie Gordon in a second for Isaac Tesla and a second.
Oh baby, I'm gonna take Tesla. I just have more conviction, and I think I'd have more fun watching him play. But
yep, Ollie Gordon or J.K. Dobbins.
Oh, Ollie Gordon.
Yep, me too. Brashard Smith, Devin Neal for Ollie Gordon.
Ollie Gordon.
Ollie Gordon as well for me. I love Brashard Smith. I just don't know how much he's going to be used versus now that I've seen a whole offseason. Ollie Gordon is firmly the running back 2 there. Yeah, that's about it. I mean, this one to me is a little bit crazy. Ollie Gordon for Marvin Mims and a third.
You know, I want Mims there. Yeah, I still believe in Marvin Mims, but I like Ollie Gordon quite a bit as of late. I've come around on him.
Yep, same here.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna get too crazy. But I think 2/3 is about the max I'll go.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. If you're saying you'd send a second for Tesla, you probably would send a second for Ollie Gordon too.
I mean, maybe if I have Achane, I probably would.
Oh yeah.
I probably really would. If I'm just acquiring just like out of the blue, I don't think I would. You probably do have to send that second to get him though, realistically, because whoever has him is probably like, oh, dude, I struck gold. I'm stoked, and they're not going to cash out for anything less than like a king's ransom. So
yep,
that's the way the game's played. Real quick, a couple other rookies, or at least one. Torrey Horton, he was hyped up all camp. Not only did he make the 53, but they cut Marcus Valdes-Scantling. He should be one of their starting 3 wide receivers. I don't know if Sam Darnold will be able to support him, at least not consistently, but maybe he can become a thing if Cooper Kupp is indeed washed. And then the only other thing I wanted to note, the Patriots, they're carrying 8 wide receivers on their 53-man roster. I've never seen anything like that before in my life. I've never seen a team carry more than 6. That feels nuts. Dude, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think they got lucky that Jalen Polk got hurt and he got on IR. Otherwise, they might have freaking carried 9 of them, dude. I don't know what they're doing. So.
To me, that just sounds like they don't know who's good or nobody's good, and they're like,
or no one's good. Yeah.
Like crap. Let's just keep them all, and then we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out later.
Yeah, dude, that's nuts.
I was like super stoked about Drake May, but I'm a little bit worried going into the season with the lack of pass catchers. So I don't know. I love TreVeyon Henderson, but I'm a little bit worried about Drake May.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about Drake May as well. Wes has a good call. Torrey Horton, I think, is going to be their returner. We saw kick returns and maybe punt returns. So he's a sneaky add too for teams that if you have any return yardage in your league there too. So that's a definitely good call out. Next week, I think we're going to start our week 1 previews and start going through that, and we will see some real meaningful NFL football. But in the meantime, we got a good week of college football ahead of us, and we will catch y'all on the next one. Peace out.